Hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. How are you guys doing tonight? Oh, I am so excited to be back with you tonight after being gone for about a week. Had a great time, by the way, but I'm glad to be back back home. Whenever you travel, there are always the good parts, and then there's the travel itself, right? So we had a wonderful time. We were in Hawaii, spent a few days on Oahu, and then went over to Maui. So just oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I actually did a video on an Instagram on my Instagram feed that I created. And so you can see us climbing, or at least the story of us climbing up Diamond Head. But glad to be back with you guys tonight. I'm so excited because we have a great topic that we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to be talking about stress. And, stress is one of those things. If you stop people on the street, you will hear them say one of three things, right? So if you ask them, hey, how you doing? It's either, hey, I'm very tired, or hey, everything is great, or I'm stressed, right? So it's one of those things that everybody experiences. And our question for tonight, we're going to pose that here in just a minute. If you had been by your computer about an hour or so ago, you you caught me kind of getting ready for this. I think Blind Guy, his wife, and their life, they were on, Lakita, and you caught me doing a little dress rehearsal. It was not supposed to be public, but hey, there it is, right? That's what happens when we do live. So I'm glad that you guys are here. So he said good moves. So let's see who's here. We've got there they are. Yes, they said they were back. We're back. Glad that you guys are here. We've got Soul. Hey man, how you doing? Good to see you tonight. Good to see you. There's hey Anthony. What's going on, man? Thanks for coming through. We really appreciate it. And here's Monica. What's up, Monica? Good to see you too. Glad you guys are here. So let's go ahead. Let's get started. So stress, right? Like I said, if you stop people, they're gonna give you one of several answers, but the three most common ones: everything is great, I'm stressed, or I'm tired. Okay, and stress is not a selector of persons, so it doesn't matter who you are. There is some stress in your life, and stress is defined as the feeling some emotional or physical tension. Right now, remember we've said before in a prior conversation that the body's function is to keep you alive. That's what it does, and the body will do anything that it can to keep us alive. And so part of that is making us aware of what's going on around us, right? So stress is a response that we have to some perceived danger or threat. And so the body goes through this process of getting us ready to deal with whatever's coming. And we'll talk a little bit about the fight or flight response. But the body goes through these chemical, neurologic, physical changes that is really geared to get us ready for whatever that stress, that danger, that perceived threat is. And this has become known as the stress response. And so we're going to talk about that tonight. What is the stress response? How does it affect the body? What happens? And then give some mechanisms for how do we go about harnessing, right? Notice what I said, harnessing. How do we go about harnessing this stress response? Because the body's built to do that. Right? So there must be some way for us to be able to manage it. And so we're talking about managing stress. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. We're going to give you some little tips and tricks on what to do, how to deal with the stress, and then answer your questions. So our question for tonight for you is a simple one, right? Is a simple one. So have you ever been stressed, right? So let me see if I can pull that up there. Let's see. There. Oh, not that one. That one's coming a little later. Right. So have you ever experienced stress? There you go. Right. So in the comments, yes or no. right? Have you ever experienced stress? Yes or no? Go ahead and drop those in the comments. Let's see. KM Ballesteros. Hey, how you doing? I'm going to put that, just pop that over there. All right. So have you ever experienced stress? Yes or no? Yes or no? Just drop that in the comments, and we'll kind of look at that here in a little bit. Okay. All right. So let's see. Hi, Anthony. So blank. He said the rehearsal was perfect. Felt like the real thing. Well, thanks, man. Thanks. Really appreciated that. But it wasn't. I don't know. I think you did a comment, and it wasn't until I was getting ready to end that I saw the comment, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm on live," and I should have just gone ahead and say hey, and that's all right, but that's okay. All right, let's see. Is it good? I'm in New Orleans this week. Whoa, okay. Well, enjoy, man. Enjoy. You're hopefully getting some good relaxation while you're out there. Love it, love it, love it. And let's see, Lauren. A shout out to Lauren from Tyrosint, who's here. She is one of the pharmaceutical reps. So, hey, we really appreciate all that you do for our office, for our patients. So thank you for stopping by. Maria, hey, good evening. Good that you're here. Oh, here, Lauren. Actually, let's see. Let's pop that. Hello. Looking forward to learning more about stress relief. Love it. Yes. All right. So just some housekeeping. So if you are new to the channel, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode, and I help to create content that help you understand your body so that you could take charge of your health, avoid complications, and live healthy, fulfilling lives. Okay? So that's what we do. That's what we're all about. If you have a question, go ahead and put that in the comments, and you want to put a Q in front of the question, a Q and then a colon, Q colon, and then your question, and we'll know that that's a question that we want to answer. And so here is one I'm going to add to my favorites, and then we'll come back to that. Let's see. Peachy27, hey, hello everyone, and Dr. Woode, how are you doing? Thanks for stopping by. Anthony. so many times, right? So Anthony said, yeah, I've been stressed many times. So here it is. So yes, Maria says many times. Anthony says many times. KM says many times. Peachy says yes. Okay. Hey, how are you doing? Blessed evening, everyone, to all, especially Dr. Woode. E is for endocrinology. That's right. She said, "Have I breathed?" Hey, Linda, how are you doing? Welcome. Hey, Yolanda. All right, Natalie says yes. Dear God, yes. We've all experienced stress at some point. Okay. All right. So good. Yeah. So good. Hi, Natalie. Just wanted to make sure we get everybody. Hey, Jeanette, how are you doing? Thanks for stopping by. Good evening, everybody. Awesome. So let's take off and let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit about stress. Okay. Let's get this one off of here. Let's see. Good evening. All right. So stress, the stress response. What is the stress response? Okay. So the stress response is the body's mechanism for getting us ready for whatever's coming. Remember, we talked about those perceived dangers or threats. And so the brain sends a signal to the rest of the body, right? So we have a nervous response, a nervous system response. That nervous system goes into the rest of the body, and we'll talk a little bit about the different organs that get involved. And then we have a hormonal response. So the brain sends a signal, says, hey, something's coming, right? So we're outside. There's some danger. Maybe if you're in a place where there are animals, maybe an animal is trying to attack you, or if you are in an area that is danger, people who are in war, people who are in natural disasters, right? So all those things are happening, and so the brain sends a signal, and the signal to the body is, hey guys, all organs, and when we say guys, we're getting ready. We've got to get ready to do something here. We've got to get ready to move. So the heart begins pumping, right? So the heart's pumping more blood. And the reason it's pumping more blood is we've got to get more oxygen to the tissues, because whatever's about to come, we can't dilly-dally. And so the heart begins to pump and blood is beginning to flow. Because that's happening, right, we've got to get more oxygen in. So guess what happens? We begin breathing, right? So we're breathing a lot harder. And so those two things, we're taking oxygen to the rest of the body. And the body begins saying a few things, right? Remember, we're trying to stay alive. So there are some things that we normally do that we don't need to do while we're trying to survive. Like what? We don't need to digest food, right? We don't need to be digesting food, right? So the GI tract slows down. We don't need to grow hair. Right. So and this is, we'll talk about kind of a chronic stress in a minute. But all of those kind of those things that we need to do long term begin to take a second seat, or the back burner, if you will, because the body's saying, hey, some of this stuff we don't need to do. And so the muscles, right, we begin to send more blood to the muscles, because if we got to run, if we got to fight, right? We'll talk about fight or flight here in a minute. So those things begin happening. And then, right, I'm an endocrinologist, so I got to talk about this part. So the hormones begin coming out. So the stress gland is the adrenal gland, because the adrenal gland produces adrenaline, right? Norepinephrine, epinephrine. It also produces glucocorticoids, or cortisol. Now, why does it need glucocorticoids? What do you see that word, gluco? Where's that, right? Glucose. Glucose is sugar. So glucocorticoids help to increase the sugar in your body so that the muscles can have enough energy to do what they've got to do, right? Now that's a simple explanation, and we can go into further details with that, but that is the stress response, right? So the body is getting ready to do what it needs to do. One of my favorite books, and I talk about it all the time, and it is called Why Do Zebras Not Get Ulcers? Why do zebras not get ulcers? And it's a fascinating book because, right, and we're going to, pretend here for a minute, if we're out and we're seeing a zebra, a lion is chasing a zebra, one of two things happens to that zebra, right? Either the zebra gets caught by the lion, right, becomes lion's food, or the zebra gets away. Yeah. And in the process of getting away, what has to happen? All the things that we just described that happens in our bodies also happens in the body for those animals, the zebra, for example, who is trying to get away from the lion. Okay, so that is called the stress response. And that is something that happens acutely. And it is a wonderful thing because the body is saying, okay, I'm ready. Whatever's coming, let's do it. That is the acute. Now, one of the things that happens is that as human beings, we kind of sometimes stay in that kind of stressful environment, right? So going back to the zebra, if the zebra becomes lion food, well, things are over. If the zebra gets away, guess what? The zebra doesn't stop around and think, hey, I wonder if that lion is still over there, right? Tomorrow, when the zebra's eating, it doesn't say, hey, the lion chased me right here yesterday. I wonder if he's around that rock. Or, he chased my cousin Joey last week and got Joey. I wonder if he's going to get me. So the zebra's not thinking that. But as humans, we kind of keep all the things that have happened to us, right? And it begins to build and build and build and build. And that is the part that begins to cause us issues, that chronic stress. Okay? All right. So let's see. Let's see, what do we got here? So I'm going to grab this question and go ahead and save that. Remember, if you are, hello, hey, Sandy. If you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat and go ahead and put a Q and a colon in front of it. Yolanda says, "Hey, even pleasant things can cause stress." Oh, I'm going to favorite that one because we're gonna come back to that here in a minute. Okay. Let's see. All right, so we're caught up in everybody who's here. Good. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's see if we can grab a couple of questions. We had some questions that are common questions that people ask. So let's grab one. Let's see, what do we got here? All right. Now this one is an interesting question because it pulls in a lot of different things, right? It says, when I get irritated or angry, I just feel like being alone. Is this stress or depression? Is this stress or depression? Now in the comments, go ahead. Somebody grab in there. Do you think this is stress or do you think this is depression? What do you think this is? The stress or depression? But very good question, right? It's a very good question. And it depends, right? You love those answers. It depends. Because being alone or wanting to take yourself away can occur either if you're stressed or if you're depressed, right? It depends on what other symptoms, what other signs that you're having, right? So depression tends to come, and we did a video several months ago, so go ahead and look at the channel and you'll see that they're listed. But we did one on depression, and depression tends to come when someone feels, whether it's hopeless, right? And it's different from mourning, right? So someone passes away and we begin to mourn and we have that feeling, but depression is feelings of worthlessness, feelings that we're trapped, right? So those are things that go along with depression. So depression, if you have those feelings and you want to be alone, right, then we would classify that, we would put that more in the depression, right? But if it's not necessarily that I'm having those questions about myself, the self-worth, but I'm angry and I just need to get away, clear my head, then that would go more into the stress category, Good question there. Let's see. Here is one. So you guys have some pretty good questions here. Let's see. Let's grab this one. All right. Does stress trigger allergic reactions? Does stress trigger allergic reactions? So it is amazing. First of all, let me say, it is amazing what stress can do in the body. Okay, we don't know all the things that happen when stress is involved, right? Stress has been known to cause people to be angry. It has been known to cause people to have physical manifestations of some of the things that they're feeling, and certainly having an allergic reaction or what seems to be an allergic reaction falls into that category, right? So now, I don't know that a specific food becomes an allergy to a person. Let me say that again. I don't know that the food itself becomes an allergen, right? But the body can respond in a way that looks like an allergic reaction, right? So because we are stressed, there are so many things that are going on, so many chemical, hormonal, physiologic changes that are happening so that it can simulate what seems to be an allergen. So very, very good question. I like that one. Okay, I like all the questions, but very, very good one there. All right, let's see. What is the difference between stress and anxiety, right? What is the difference between stress and anxiety? Very, very good question. And the difference between stress and anxiety is, remember, stress is a response to a perceived threat and or danger, and anxiety is our response to the stress. right? So anxiety is more a chronic thing. So stress, I see a lion, and guess what? All of my hormones are gonna go crazy. My brain is gonna say, "Hey, muscles, we need to get out of here," right? Because unless you can fight a lion, right? If you can, then more power to you. But but the muscles in my legs are gonna be saying, "Hey, we need to go." My heart's gonna start pumping more. My breathing is gonna increase. My vision is gonna improve because my pupils are gonna constrict because I got to see a far way, right? Because I got to run. And so that is stress. Anxiety now is more of a chronic thing. That is, how am I responding to the stress? All the symptoms, all the side effects, all of the signs that I see that come from the stress. That's where anxiety comes in. Very good. Good question. All right. Let's see. Linda, let's pop this one up here. So Linda says, how do adaptogens play into stress reduction? Wow. You guys are getting like really, really deep. I love these questions though. So let's talk a little bit about, maybe we should back up a little bit and talk about the things that happen in the body with chronic stress, right? So the fact that your heart goes faster is a great thing because you're getting more oxygen. The fact that you're breathing faster is great because you're getting more oxygen. Your pupils are constricted, right? So that you can so that we can work and do what we need to do. The muscles are getting more oxygen, right? My the vessels or the capillaries in my skin, they are constricting, right? Because I don't need to send all of this energy into those areas, right? And so that's an acute process. And that happens, for instance, like I said, I see the lion, or we're in a disaster, or I'm in a car accident. So those are immediate things that happen. What happens, however, is that if these become chronic, right, then that heart that was beating to give more oxygen, it begins to get enlarged. We begin to have more pressure. And so now we have high blood pressure. The glucocorticoids, remember I said glucose, those corticoids, that steroid begins to push the sugar up. And so we now begin to get metabolic problems. So now we're putting on weight, right? And if we're doing those things, right, so we are mobilizing all of our energy stores, what does the body make us do to try to replenish those stores? That's right. The body makes us eat because it says, hey, I'm using all this stuff up, right? The cortisol is high, the insulin is up. And so all those things are now forcing us into an abnormal state. And so that's the kind of chronic stressor, if you will. And we, like I said, we live kind of in that place. Okay? Now, adaptogens. So how do they affect our stress, right? And our stress in the body? Well, so if we are able to manage, whether it's by eating foods, right, or supplements, and we'll talk a little bit about those things coming up. If we are able to harness or decrease some of the cortisol, the epinephrine, the norepinephrine, right? All of those hormones that are now coming up, and then we haven't even talked about the sympathetic tone that's in the body, then we are able to decrease our stress response. Notice I started almost there to say stress, but not the stress. We can't decrease the stress, but we can decrease the stress response. Okay? Very good. I like that. Let's see what we got here. Oh, so here's a very good one. Say, hey, Natalie. And so Natalie asked the question, is stress hereditary? Is stress hereditary? Wow. That's a pretty good one. And you guys will see Natalie has the same name as me. And so Natalie Woode, so that's my sister. So is stress hereditary? And I'm going to answer that in two ways. Well, I'll answer it one way. So our response to stress is largely learned. Woo! Wow. So that one right there, we need to just need to encapsulate that. So our response to stress is largely learned. Okay? Now, that's not to say that there aren't people whose dad was stressed and mom was stressed and sister was stressed and uncle was stressed. And although there may be some genetics behind it, a lot of our response to it is learned. Let's kind of walk through that a little bit. Okay? So let's assume that there is not a genetic component. And you walk out the street and you take two random people and you put them both in the same stressor, right? Whatever it may be, right? You put them on a job that is really demanding, or you put them in an environment that seems dangerous, right? Or you drop them in a pool or in the ocean, in the 40-foot part. Yeah, no, yeah. So we went snorkeling, and we went into the 40. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. He asked me to tell you that story sometime. But so you drop them in there, and they can't swim, right? So both of those people are in the same stressed environment, but their response to the stress is different. And the question is, what makes one person respond in a less problem-solving way? Let me put it that way, right? So what makes one person respond one way versus the other? And that is how they have learned to deal with their stress, right? Great question. I love it. Okay. Let's see what else we got over here. It depends is the answer because there are so many variables. So I like this. I'm gonna bring this comment up. It depends. Is the answer because there are so many variables? And the reason I love that answer, and thank you for saying that. When I gave my answer a minute ago, it was pretty simple, right? So yes, it possibly, and we learn. But why do we learn to respond the way we learn? Yeah, because of all those variables, right? So depends on where you grew up, who you grew up with, how was their response to stress. I remember when I was a resident in training, and I remember coming to the hospital, and in the morning I would come and I would sit in my car, and I would anticipate going into the hospital, and we were at a busy hospital, and I would have to sit there and kind of calm myself down before I went into the hospital. Yeah, because I was going into the hospital and there were all these people, right? We never knew who was coming into the ER, what problem they're going to have. Are they having a heart attack? Are they having a stroke? Or whatever it is, right? And so walking in is a stressful event, right? It is a stressful event. And how I managed myself in the event was going to determine how the day went. Notice that the circumstance didn't change. Woohoo! Right? Did you hear that? The circumstance didn't change, but how I responded to it was a combination of all the things I was putting in and all the things that had been put into me. So thank you. Great. I love that, blind guy. So it says, oh, wow. Yeah, good question here. So it says, oh, wow. So the anxiety is more like the effects of ongoing stress, and we're staying in that mode. Exactly. Love it. That's a very great summary. And this is going back to my question, the question about the difference between anxiety and stress. So thank you for saying that. Okay. And then Maria said, yeah, our response to stress is largely learned. It is largely learned. So let's see. Let's move on to another question here. why don't we grab, let's see. Oops. So what are the signs and symptoms of stress? Wow. Signs and symptoms of stress. Well, remember, we just said that when we become stressed, the body goes through a change. And the body goes through a change because it's preparing us to handle whatever is coming. And if those things are prolonged, right, that kind of chronic stress, like blind guy, his wife and his life just said, right, that kind of long-term thing, then now that becomes an issue, right? So what are some possible symptoms, right? So if our heart is pounding, right, our heart is pounding, is giving more blood, right, what can happen? Well, we can get headaches, right? If our GI tract is not getting the blood it needs because it's being shunted other places, right? Because remember, the body says, I don't need to digest food now, right? Because I need to survive. So if my GI tract is not functioning the way it should because it's not getting blood, what do I feel? I can feel nausea. I can feel some vomiting, maybe some abdominal pain, right? So my hair, if it's chronic, right? The body says, I don't need hair. Now, in my case, it said that a long time ago, right? So I'm part of the bearded bald guy club. Thanks Doc Rock for cloning that. So the body says we don't need hair. So what happens to the hair? The hair falls out. The skin, right, is dry because it does not, where we're shunting blood away from the skin. Women, their menstrual cycles can go away, right? Because we don't need to reproduce if we're trying to survive, right? That's not a part of, if this organism, I mean, the general organism, the community needs to survive, so we need some reproduction. But if I'm stressed, I don't need to reproduce, right? So those are some of the things that we will see. Irregular menstrual cycles, infertility, dry skin, dry hair, loss of hair, right? So all those things, high blood sugar, because what? The glucocorticoids, those steroids, are mobilizing the sugar that's in your body. Glucagon is going up, right? And we didn't mention that earlier, but that's going up. So blood sugars are high. So I mean, a myriad of things. Muscle aches and muscle pains. Why? Because the body is shunting blood now away from certain parts. Right? So those muscles are not getting all the blood that they need because it's going to more vital areas. So that's a very good one. I love that question. Okay. And let me pause here and let's see. I am going to do a little commercial. Woohoo! So guys, if you have not yet been to our social media platforms, and that's coming up. Oh, there we are, right? Please go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Go ahead and see us on LinkedIn, TikTok. We got some very good videos there. And, of course, Twitter, and buy me a coffee if you'd like to support this channel. We would love for you to do that and be a part of what we are doing here. In our lineup coming up, well, before I say that, if you want to see more, so this is kind of what we do on a weekly basis, right? So we've got our live at 7 o'clock, like we're doing now, every Monday. We will let you know if we are not going to do that, but that's our plan. Like last week, we weren't here because we were on vacation. TikTok every Friday at 10 o'clock. We put out a 60-second TikTok video that is some educational, and I still have to do my little dance, so I have not forgotten. And then Twitter on a daily basis. There are things that we put out there. They're inspirational thoughts. They are recipes. There are things on how to manage life in general, sleeping and exercising and so forth. So please take a look at that. And you may notice, I did not mention this at the beginning, but you may notice, and let me pull myself back up. You may notice up in the corner, right? You'll see that pink ribbon. And this is October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And so you will see that pink ribbon in all of our broadcasts, all of our lives throughout the month of October. And next week, I am so excited because we have some special guests who are going to be coming on, Curtis and Paula Eakins. Paula is a survivor of breast cancer. And so she's going to share her story with us. They're going to be here to answer questions. Her and Curtis have a wonderful ministry that they do talking about breast cancer and really talking about health in general. They are based here in Huntsville, Alabama, but they travel, right? So they're all over the place. And so we're excited that they are going to be with us on the 18th, right, which is next Monday. So if you know someone who is a breast cancer survivor, if you just want to support, we appreciate you guys coming out and hanging out with us for that. Okay, awesome. All right. And let's see. All right, so let's get back to it. So Natalie, so hello, Adrian. Welcome. Thanks for coming by. Natalie has a very good question here. I love it. So she says, and so this is response to the question. Right, so how do we unlearn? And I'm assuming that this question, Natalie, is based on your earlier question. When I said that a lot of our stress, our response to stress is learned. And the question is, how do we unlearn? We unlearn by being methodical. One of the, and let's just kind of jump down to that here now in this question. And while I do that, let me pop this one up for you. And this was a question that I popped up earlier, but I'm going to pop it up and take it down while I answer Natalie's question. All right. So how do you cope with stress? Right. So a lot of you said, hey, yeah, I've got stress. Yes, I got stress every day. So how do you cope with stress? Just right. And you don't have to tell your whole story. Just drop something in there. What do you do? How do you cope with stress? And so back to Natalie's question, so how do we unlearn? And we unlearn by being methodical, right? So it is so interesting that we can be 50, 60, 70, even 80 years old, and something that happened in our childhood can rear its head. Notice what I said? Right? So unless we kind of deal with those things, then they continue to go with us. So we've got to be intentional about it, right? So that when, for example, when we have a stressful event, we need to have a plan on how we deal with stress. Okay? In the office, I tell patients all the time that one of my favorite places is St. Simon's Island, right? Off the coast of Georgia. And I don't live there. I don't have property there. I wish I did. But sometimes what I do, right, in my mind is I imagine going on a trip. My wife and I went there years ago. And so I imagine us driving, right? There's a little bridge that you drive to get across to the island, right? Or get across to the area. And, the little hotel or cottage that I want to stay in. And it's raining just a little bit. It's drizzling. So I like rain, and some of you may not, right? And so I'm there, and we got the little candle on the table, and the bed is pulled down, and we're walking along the cobblestone streets later in the afternoon, right? And the people are so nice and quiet, and we're going into all these little quaint stores. Notice what I'm doing, right? What am I doing? Okay, I am visualizing this place because that's my place. That's where I go in my head, right? When there's craziness going around. And so I can be there at any time. Like, hold on a sec, let me show you. I was just there, right? And it doesn't take a long time, right? So coming up with a plan when something stressful happens, right? What am I going to do? That's huge. What are my plans for not letting stress build up? Woohoo! Wow. Okay. So let's talk about that. So I've got a couple of things here that I jotted down. So when we have stressful events and all those hormones are happening, right? And the body is tense and the muscles are getting all of this sugar, and the heart is beating, and the respiration, the breath is going faster and faster and faster, right? So how do we, so the stressful event has happened and it's gone. But we are now in the anxiety phase. We're in that kind of chronic stress. So how do we dissipate? How do we get rid of some of those hormones? Well, the best way to get rid of them is to use them. And what's that called in human terms? It's called exercise. Right? So exercising is a wonderful way of dealing with stress, because all of those changes that are going on in our bodies, right, they're there. And if we don't do something, it just stays and stays, and it builds and it builds and it builds. So one way to dissipate it is to exercise. And it doesn't take a lot, guys. Right? So finding something that you like to do. It could be walking, right? It could be walking. I remember I went to a retreat. And you know what they had us do? Yeah, so we went out and we found some trees. It was a wooded area, and all of us, we had to grab some sticks. And guess what we did? We beat those trees. That's right, boom, right? Because what were we doing? Right, we were getting rid of some of that stress. Right, we were using up some of that, and it's amazing what that will do. So it doesn't take much. Okay, developing a routine, a morning routine that gets your day started in the right way is a wonderful way of once again, we're talking about putting a structure together, okay? And so we're teaching ourselves, right? So whether that is a gratitude thing that you do or a mantra, right? My wife does mantras. There is, and I'm hoping to get her on our show, but there's a woman that I met, and she does a video journaling, right? Yeah, exactly, right? So writing those things down. One of the things that I do is, this device, and I keep talking about this phone. This phone is a wonderful thing because it has all these different features on it, and one of the things that it has is a place to do memos, right? And so, sometimes I'm driving in the car and something comes to my mind, and I record it. Right. One of the things that we are hoping to do is talk more about food and food addiction. And I've already shared with you guys my experience with food addiction. And so when sometimes I stop off wherever to grab something. And so I grab this thing and say, okay, what am I feeling right now? Right. So it's a wonderful way of dealing with that, whether it's prayer. Okay. So prayer is a wonderful way of doing that. And going back to the exercise, stretching, yoga, right? So all of those things are great. Control the things that get to you. Whoa, wait a minute. What do you mean? So control the things that get to you. So when you wake up in the morning, don't just grab the phone and start looking at the social media. Ooh, am I stepping on somebody's toes? Yep. Right? Because guess what? You've just set yourself up for stress. Right? Because what do we see on social media? Right? We see other people doing things that we want to do. We see other people being ridiculed, right? And so we begin normalizing all that stuff, and it's coming in, right? Control how you get your news, right? So in February of this year, my family decided, and I continue to do this, that we were not going to watch network television to get the news. And I continue to do that. So I get my news in print, right? So I get a couple of things that come across my phone during the day, And so I get to control how the news gets to me, right? Think about this. You don't just open your door at your house and leave it open and let anybody just kind of walk in. So why do we do that with our minds and with our brains, right? And then with our feelings. And then one of the wonderful ways of dealing with stress, because stress is a sympathetic thing, right? So sympathetic, not meaning that I'm having sympathy for you, but the body's nervous system is divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic. And the sympathetic part of it is what happens whenever we see danger, right? Or perceive danger. And so So the sympathetic takes on. So how do we counter the sympathetic? We can counter the sympathetic with the opposite nervous system, parts of the nervous system, and that is the parasympathetic. And one of the most beautiful ways of doing this is, the act of checking something off of your list that you said, I plan to do this, I plan to do this, I plan to do this, and checking that thing off of your list, right? The parasympathetic nervous system sends signals out, and it helps to counterbalance the other. Now, so those are 4 things. I mean, there's so many others, and we'll share those, in different forums and go on. But those are my 4 tips for you tonight, right? Exercise, develop a morning routine, control what gets to you, and work on completing tasks. And we'll talk more as we get into those. Okay. Let's see. What do we have? So that's how do we unlearn. So here's one. Are fibroids a response to stress? Natalie, I don't know of any study that shows that it is a response to stress. I do know that there are so many different things that we are still learning about how stress interacts with the body, but that one I'm not familiar with. Let's see. Oh, so Yolanda says, remove myself from the stressful situation or person if possible. And so this is a response to how do you manage stress? Yes, I love that. If possible, take yourself out of the stress, right? So if you get upset or get stressed every time that person calls you on the phone, guess what? That might that might be a phone call that doesn't get answered, right? Or at least have a conversation with the person and say, hey, every time I get off with the phone with you, I'm like pulling my hair out. What can we do to kind of not have that happen, right? So that's a one. I love that. Let's see. We got listen to music. Okay, Yolanda, again, I love that. Listen to music. Talk to friends. One of the things that I used to do, and I need to get back to, I decided I was going to learn how to play the bass guitar. So we have two bass guitars sitting over there in the living room. And every now and then I love grabbing one and just sitting and I'm in no way a bassist, but I love doing that or getting on the piano and playing, right? So music, I love that. Let's see, Peachy27 says, turn on my diffuser and watch anime. Right. Now, so I love this, and this is a good place for talking about distracting the mind, right? Distracting the mind. There's so much that happens in our day, in our lives. And if we're not careful, we could spend all of our time dealing with those things. And I've said, and I people say, well, how do you know that? So I just calculated. So there are 1,440 minutes in a day. 1,440 minutes in a day. And most of us spend all of that giving it away to somebody else, aside from sleeping. Okay? So we're always on the go, right? We get up in the morning, we run out of the house because we're late for work or we're late for school, late for class. We get there, we work all day, we come home, there's some project that we've got to do that we didn't get finished for that day, for work, right? So we kiss our wives really quick, we pray with our kid, put them in bed, drop in the bed, and then we're up again the next day, right? And over and over and over. So I love, Peachy, that you're saying, turn on the diffuser. Do something for me, right? Do some music, watch anime, just take my mind off of the things that are going on, and you'll be surprised how much that goes. All right, so let's see. Blind Guy says, good to see you hanging out with one of my favorite doctors, Adrian Nash. Awesome. Natalie says strong spirits. Strong spirits. Hey, we need to talk about that. Okay. Let's see. What is blind guy? He said, I was watching doctors discuss vigorous exercise and a lot of sweating to mitigate menopause symptoms. It's what you're saying in regards to eliminating the hormones. Um, and so not directly what we were talking about there, but yes, so exercise helps to mitigate so many different things in the body, right? What I was saying here in response to stress and the stress response is that when we move a muscle, when we exercise, we're burning off those glucocorticoids, we're burning off that epinephrine. And once we begin doing that, then the body begins to decrease that response, right? So the heart slows, the breathing slows, and so all of those things, okay, all of those things. So I want to share with you guys. We do these quotes. So here's one. It is hard to fly when something is weighing you down. It's hard to fly when something is weighing you down. And so this comes from Brent Haskell. Brent Haskell, and you can Google him. He has some writings out there. But he tells the story of a psychologist, and he has all these students, and the students are in his class, and he grabs. Let's see if I got it. So he grabs a glass of water. I don't know which one of these looks better on camera. So how about this one? Yeah, there we go. All right. So he grabs a glass, and so he's going to ask a question to the students, and they all assume that he was going to ask the question that you guys may be thinking about this glass. Is it half full or half empty, right? Because it all depends on your perspective. Is it half full or half empty? And to their surprise, he doesn't ask that question. He asks, how much do you think the glass weighs? And so he starts getting all these answers, 8 ounces, 10 ounces, 12 ounces. Depends on how much water is in there, right? So all these questions, all these answers are coming. And so the psychologist says, well, actually, it depends on how long I hold the glass. Because right now it's not very heavy. But if I keep holding it over time, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, a day, a week, a month, a year, right? After a while, my arm is going to get so tired of just holding this small glass of water that it's going to seem as though the glass has so much weight, right? Tons and tons and tons of weight. And guys, this is what it's like with stress. Let me pause. That's what it's like with stress. Because the stress that you feel, right, if it doesn't dissipate, if we don't deal with it, it stays and it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And after a while, now we start having heart attacks. We start having strokes, high cholesterol. We put on weight, right? We start eating, right? When we're not hungry, but we're eating to kind of deal with the stresses that are coming, right? So why does stress or why do people eat, right, with stress? And why does food help the stress get better? Now, one of the things I've never seen some people wake up and say, hey, I'm running across town to go get some celery, right, or some broccoli. But people run across town to get ice cream. They run across town to get cookies and candy and pizza and chocolate, right? And it's because one of the pleasure hormones is dopamine. Dopamine helps you feel better. And so whenever we eat those things, there is a response that happens. And so the body releases dopamine. And so we get that momentary almost euphoria. Oh, that tastes so good. But what happens after a while? Well, that feeling goes away. And so what do you have to do now? Well, got to get some more chocolate. Or that chocolate wasn't good, so I'm all around town trying to figure out what's the best chocolate, right? You become a chocolate connoisseur or a ice cream connoisseur, right? So all those things happen because of stress. So go back to the 4 things that we shared, okay? Get some exercise. Get some exercise. Develop a morning routine. whatever that routine is, right? Control what gets to you so that you are not allowing the external to dictate what happens in your life. And then work on completing tasks, right? So one of the most stressful things that happens, and people perceive this, is that there is a task that either they don't feel equipped to manage, right? They don't feel equipped to manage, or they know they don't know enough about, so they procrastinate. And simply, and so we deal with that stress in one of two ways, right? Either we tackle it and we deal with it, or we accept. You didn't expect that one, right? We accept it. Hey, this is what it is, okay? And that is intentional acceptance, not just, this. I decide that, okay, this task, whatever it is, can't be done by me right now, and I'm going to accept whatever that is. And that process is a process that will help you deal with the stress. Let's see. Lauren Hicks, let's see. I try to focus on how many times I have gone through stressful situations and gotten through them, and it turned out just fine. Also prayer. Love it. Thank you, Lauren. Let's see. Maria says, a lot of time it's so hard to say no, and that stresses me a lot. So guilty when Dr. C was talking about. In our meeting today, my wife was sharing about stress, actually, coincidentally, that sometimes we overcommit, right? We overcommit. So there's something that we need to say no to so that we can say yes to other things. But because of a myriad of things, a myriad of other issues that come into our lives, we say yes, and say yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. And after a while, we've said yes to so many things that the stress begins to build. Now, one last thought. When I gave the definition of stress, I said perceived danger, right? Or harm. There are true things that can harm us. The lion, the tiger, the earthquake, the tornado, right? Those are true things. Perceived things. Oh, she doesn't like me. I wonder what she's talking about. Whoa. Or, they have a bigger car than I do. Why does that? So I'm stressed, right? So I'm talking about things that, do you know, I was listening to something yesterday. Do you know that, years ago, I'm talking about hundreds of years ago, maybe even less than that, there was not the hypertension or high blood pressure that we have today, or the diabetes, or the stroke, right? So these are all diseases of modern man. And a lot of these can be traced back to how we deal with our stress. So I'm so happy that you guys were here tonight. Thank you for coming, all of you, and thank you for engaging. Thank you for the comments. Next week, like I said, we're going to have Paula and Curtis Aikens with us talking about surviving breast cancer. So guys, you are, we love this community. Go ahead and share this. Like us, on this video. Like us, give us a thumbs up, and we will see you. This is Dr. Dwain Woode from Diabetes and Endocrine Wellness Center and the Light Away, educating the public for a better you. Let's get some music and let's get on out of here.